Page, where are we? We are on page 84, that's right. The base on base. Tamati, we learned over there. Very interesting Gemara tonight, actually. Ha'akum, goyim, Rabbi Meir, a goy, Rabbi Meir, nerach, avulu marich. Now, there's an important introduction we have to give here, which is, why we're right at the top. There are two ways in which you can give values of human beings to the Beis HaMikdash. There's one absolute value called erchin, which is the Torah gives specific amounts per age, per gender, and then there's domim. Domim is relative to the slave market. In other words, what you would be sold for in the slave market, right? The two types of value. So the question is which value a goy can give to the Beis HaMikdash? So or which value of a goy may be given as well. So Tanamatin, it's a Mishnah on erchin. Ha'akum goy, Rabbi Meir nerach. I could say I want to give the value of that goy upon me, and this is the absolute value. And since that just goes by gender and age, so even if I use a goy as the object, that's good enough. That's sufficient to actually that's sufficient to require me to give erchin to the Beis HaMikdash. Avalo marich, the goy himself does not have the capacity to pledge erech to the Beis HaMikdash. He has the capacity to serve as the object of an erech, but not the capacity to pledge erech. Rabbi Yehuda made the exact opposite. Marich, he may pledge erech, avalo nerach, but he can't be an object of somebody else's pledge. However, zev v'zeh noidrin, everybody agrees, zev v'zeh moidin, everybody agrees, shein noidrin v'nidarin, that in terms of the slave market value, that they can pledge and that they can serve as the object of the pledge. So the question is that absolute value in the Torah, to what extent they have relevance to that. That's the issue. But the relative value of slave market, that they do have no matter what. Okay? Because, of course, slave markets are made for anybody, Jews, non-Jews, whereas the erech in the Torah might only be relevant to Jews. Now, why is this brought down here? So the Gemara wants to link it back to our topic, the topic of Nazir. Rabbi Yirmiyah wanted to say, Man damar tamon marich, he who said over there, a Nazir can pledge erech, Mazir, he can also pledge Nazirus. Yes. Pledge Nazirus. What do you think it means? What?
The value of the Nazir.
No. What it means is that I can, the Nazir, the pledge Nazirus means I can pledge somebody else to be a Nazir. So it's just marich, just means just like I give somebody else's value to the Beis HaMikdash, I also make somebody else a Nazir, which of course is preposterous. When I was going to ask that, how can I make somebody else a Nazir, right? But if you hold over there, goy can be marich, so too here, goy can be mazir, pledge somebody else to be a Nazir. Umar Damar, the other hand, Umar Damar, the fourth line down, in the Iraq, that the goy can serve as the object of the pledge, hacha nizor. Here he can serve. Here somebody else can pledge the goy to be a nazir. Now, of course, Gemara doesn't understand that either. Says the Gemara, nizor. Somebody else can pledge to be a nazir. Hech efshar yisro mazir sakum. How can a Jew come to a goy and say, "Hey, you goy, I want you to become a nazir"? The Shamahu, what the Nazir is going to listen, the guy is going to listen to what this Jew is trying to do to him. It makes no sense. Shamu lays, you're going to listen to him. Ella, rather, what it means is B'Sha'amar Yisrael Reini Nazir. A good Jew says, "I want to be a Nazir." B'Sha'amar Akum, and the guy hears this. V'Amar, he says, "Masha'amar Zeh Olai." That which this guy said, I want to do the same thing. In that case, that's the case where Yisrael is Mazir. He didn't do it directly, but indirectly he serves as the basis of the Nazirus of the Goy. It's just like paying up an obligation. When you accept the obligation, you become a Nazir upon himself, and he pays that up, so to speak. Mazir, and the other way around, a Goy can make a Jew into a Nazir. Mazir is Yisrael. How is it possible for a Goy to make a Jew into a Nazir? Yisrael ain't a Nazir. One Jew cannot make another Jew a Nazir. V'akum Nazir, and a goy can make a Jew as Yisrael. A goy can make a Jew into a Nazir. Makes no sense. It must be again b'shomer akum. A goy walked down the street and said, "Arini Nazir, I'm a Nazir." V'shomer Yisrael, and the Yisrael heard. V'amar said, "Ma shomer zeh olai." That which this guy said is upon me as well. So that case, the Yisrael becomes a Nazir as well. Now, if that's the case, we find that a goy can become a Nazir. Mami Atabo, from what do we exclude a Nazir? The first mission of the Parak said a goy can become a Nazir. We just say he does become a Nazir, right? So it says more, I'll tell you. Yisrael v'bal yachel, if Yisrael does not keep his Nazirus, he transgresses the biblical prohibition of lo yachel v'ro, he should not profane his vows. Ve'ena akum v'bal yachel. A goy does not transgress, there is no biblical prohibition against goyim of bal yachel. Rabbi Yerushalmi said another interpretation. Yisrael yesh lem heter chacham. A Yisrael can have his neder annulled by a chacham, because there's such a thing. The vows can be annulled by a chachamim, right? By sages. V'akum ein lem heter chacham. A goy cannot have his neder annulled. In other words, once he takes a neder, he is bound by it. He doesn't have the escape hatch of nullification.
It's a dangerous precedent here of a Jew overhearing a guy say something and said, I want to be like him.
Right, so just because it's dangerous, it shouldn't work? If it works, still right, there's nothing we can do about dangerous. It's dangerous, so what? Okay?
I mean, it's okay for Nazir, but what if the guy says something else? Like, worship Barzora.
Oh, but okay, so then he has to be careful. I mean, you're right. Of course it's dangerous, so everything...
It's the first time I don't recall seeing that.
I don't recall it either. No, I don't recall it either. That a guy says something Yisrael takes upon himself. We have by Yisrael to Yisraelim, right? Not by Goy Yisrael. Okay, so now yet another interpretation. Rabbi Yisrael said Yisrael tzrichim heter chacham. A Yisrael, in order to forsake his neder, he needs to have the parameters of a heter of a chacham. V'akum ein tzrichim heter chacham. A goy does not require a heter chacham. His neder he can just renounce his vow without getting a chacham to be matrid. V'asel Rabbi Yossi Rabbi Yossi for the following story. Rabbi Yossi's following story Avo is going like Rabbi Yossi. How is that? Chada nachris. A certain nachris, a goyish woman. Asel Rabbi Avo, he gave Rabbi Avo to be matir her neder. She was frum. She wanted a hataras nedorim. So Rabbi Avo said, Amar Rabbi Avo, Amar Rabbi Bartuvi. He said to Rabbi Bartuvi, one of his talmidim, I guess, Puku pasach la b'noilad. Go and find her a pesach to be matir neder. Even if it's a nolad. Nolad means something which did not exist at the time the neder was taken, which by a Jew is not sufficient reasons to be matir the neder. But by a goya, it's good enough, right? Because they don't really need heter chacham. Just this, she was particularly from, so whatever they want to abide by a request, but it's not really necessary. Says the Gemara, Rabbi Yonah. Rabbi Yonah holds a goy does require a heter chacham, that he can't get out of his neder just by renouncing it. Could Rabbi Yachas goes like Rabbi Agadat is Rabbi Yachas Agadat the statement. Damrei says, "Who love and who kushan rishosayim." The same love and who pursued Yaakov was also kushan rishosayim, who subjugated the Jews at the times of the judges for 8 years. V'lami kronik kushmo kushan rishosayim. Why is he called kushan rishosayim? Rishosayim means doubled evil. Shasa shtei rishus. He did 2 evil things. Achas shechilos hashvua. One is that he desecrated the oath he took that he's not going to pass over into Eretz Yisrael to subjugate the Yaakov and his descendants. So he transgressed that oath. That was one evil that he did. And the other one, v'achas sheshiva b'Yisrael shmona shana. One was that he subjugated the Jews for 8 years. In and of itself, that was a problem. So we see here that goyim are held accountable for their shvuos, and they can't just say, well, we opt out of the shvuah. Okay? So that's good. This machlokas tanoim is the same machlokas amorim we have. Says the Gemara, what if a husband's wife took a neder to be in the zero, right? let him force his wife to renounce the neder. Why does he have to be made for the neder? Why does he have to nullify? Let him just force her to transgress. V'yakov Isisha, let him compel her. Located Rabbi Yehuna, didn't Rabbi Yehuna say, Hanasia Olecha, if a woman forswears her benefit on her husband, Kofa, the husband compels her, Mishamashto, and she has relations with him. Hanayoscha, and the same thing if she says, your benefit should be prohibited upon me. Well, actually, that's different. If she says, your benefit should be prohibited upon me, then I raise the yofer. Then he should nullify the vow. But if she takes the neder, he can just blithely disregard it and compel her to service him. So that's the case. How come he has to nullify her neder of Nazirus? So it says the Gemara, Shani Shuanayosa Vanayosa. There it's different because there it's her benefit and his benefit. In other words, Bia, everybody has pleasure from having relations. So therefore, he has the right to compel her to go against her neder because she has no right to take it. But here, to be in a zero, that's her business, not his business, right? It's true, it might indirectly affect him, but not directly. So therefore, it doesn't affect directly. It's nothing you can compel. All you can do is be made for and nullify the vow. Okay? Says the Gemara, it said in our Mishnah that a person can compel a slave. The slave took a neder to be a Nazir. This is another Kanani. So the master can compel the slave to break his Nazirus. Says him, how come? He shouldn't be able to compel him to break his Nazirus. Says Gemara, Shani, it's different. It says, Kinezer, and this drush not brought down the Bavli, and I think it's very significant. It says, Kinezer Elokov Arosho. It says, the crown of God by Nazir is on his head. Eshe Einlo Odon Acher. It has to be somebody who only has one crown on his head, the crown of his God. Such a person is a Nazir, right? Yotza Ev, as opposed to an Evet, Sheyesh Lo Odon Acher, he's got another crown on his head, right? Another master, right? Who's the other master? His own master, so isn't his heroes doesn't take effect.
He doesn't have a crown, it's a yoke.
It's a yoke, right. Now, the Yerushalmi actually has different drusha, as I said, in the Bavli. That'll come back, we'll come back to that a little later on, in a few minutes. Let's say the Evet, he was a strong Evet. And his master says something, he says, tut, tut, and he disobeys. So what about Nazirus? Should he disobey when it comes to Nazirus? So it says the Yerushalmi l'shitaso, Omer lo halachi. In this case, we say to the Evet, no, this is halacha. We learn out from this passage that's halacha that you do not keep Nazirus when you're a slave because you have another adon. So therefore, we say it's halacha. Shema l'divei rabcha. Listen to what your Rebbe tells you and do not become a Nazir. Okay? Now, as a result of this, we ask the following question. Now, I'm going to learn this like Korban Pnei Moshe, not like the Rebbe and Gilead and Ephraim, and I think that they're correct in the way they're learning. That's why you'll see how I'm learning. The Gemara says, Kefafa Rabba V'nitma. Let's say his master compelled him to become Tomei. Now, he started keeping the zeros as an Evid, but his master compelled him to become Tomei. Ma'ush Yovi Korban Tumah. Does he bring Korban Tumah for having become Tomei? Because his master compelled him to become Tumah. Says the Gemara, what are you talking about? Why should you bring Korban? V'chi Nazir here? Is he a Nazir? He's not a Nazir because he has another Adon other than HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Lo atu shagazat olav sheyitma. Didn't you say that we compel him to become Tomei because of that Xeris HaKosov, right? That the only case there is one master. So therefore, Atamarcha, maybe Korban Tumah. You want to say he brings the Korban Tumah? The car maybe Korban Tumah. Do you think he'll bring Korban Tumah? What was he bringing Korban Tumah for? He's not really a Nazir because he had other shiburim, other obligations by himself. Similarly, Kafafa Rabbo V'Nikma, Maushi store. If his Rebbe compelled him to become Tomei, and from his Nazirus, does he break his Nazirus? Says the Gemara, what do you mean does he break his Nazirus? Is he a Nazir at all? Right? He's not a Nazir. It should be instead of el, it should be lo. Lo atisha gozatlav sheitama. You said already they should become tame. Atamer soser, you're going to say it's breaking the zeros? The koi soser, what is there to break over here? There's nothing to break. So the way the Yerushalmi is learning it, the way I just learned the Yerushalmi, although again, as I said, I'm learning it differently. The Yerushalmi is saying that because of Xeros HaKosu, that it says that he has to have no other master other than Kodesh Baruch Hu, so there really shouldn't be any Nazirus. So there he becomes Tomei under his master, he doesn't be in Carbon Tumah. And therefore if he becomes also, if he becomes Tomei, he doesn't, there's nothing to break. There's not a Nazir to break in Nazirus, because no Nazirus to break. Now, the point I wanted to make about this is that what about, it doesn't say anything about shaving. Can he shave off his hair if he's an Eved? Right? I mean, if he's an Eved, can his master compel him to shave off his hair? It says his master can make him become Tomei. And we know also it says elsewhere the master can make him drink wine. Can the master make him Tomei? Make him shave off his hair. So the Rosh Hashanah has several reasons to say why not. And one of them I like, because he says we have a Gemara several times that says that Kedusha is mafkiyim midei shibud. Right? If something is holy, so, and it's made holy based on mikdash, so it's no longer on the lien to the credit holder. So the hair which a Nazir grows is holy. It's burnt under the pot in the base of mikdash. So therefore, no longer is under lien to the master. That's why the master can't make him shave. Okay, the master can make him Tomei, because his body is under lien to the master. His body is not holy. The master can make him drink wine, because wine is also a function of the body. But the hair, which is eventually going to be cut off and burnt, that's not a function over which the master can exercise any control, because once it became a Nazir, it already became Kodesh Kodesh Baruch Hu.
Yeah, but if the concept of Nazirus doesn't exist for this...
So we see Nazirus already does exist to a certain extent. That's what we're going to discuss now in greater detail. Okay? Now, instead of the next two lines, from Pshita till Tumah, which is from the fourth line into the fifth line, I'm going to learn that, like, the Shari Torah Sevet Yisrael learns that the Gemara should be a quote of Tosefta. And you don't have that, but so it's just tell you outside. It should say Tani. It should say we learn it Tosefta. Nitma v'achaka yitzil l'cherus. If he comes Tomei and then he goes free, Mona Mishah Shenitar, he starts counting from the moment he becomes free. Okay? Sounds like even though he didn't as of yet undergo the Torah process, the moment he gets free, he starts counting. Okay? So it says the Gemara, it starts counting as a zero.
And some of the others that a wife took against the husband once she gets divorced.
She has to keep it. Yeah, I just made it. You're right. That's correct. I just made a mistake though. It says if he comes Tomei and goes out to free, he does count from the moment he became Tar, not because of the time he became Tomei. I'm sorry. From the moment he became Tar. But you're right. The fact he has to start keeping it now indicates that there's some dormant Nazirus upon him, right? So it says the Gemara, Mao. What are we talking about? B'shekfafo Rabo, are we talking about, this is the fifth line down, when his master compelled him, or b'shalokfafo Rabo, or his master not compelled him? We're talking about where his master made him Tomei, or he became Tomei on his own. Item b'shekfafo, if we're talking about where his master made him become Tomei before he became free, so then we switch around the next line, this line, Gishale calls Manchu Tachtov. Then he pays as long as he's underneath, meaning that since his master compelled him, so he's got to make up all the time which he lost being underneath his master, becoming Tomei, right? If you're talking about when his master is not compelled to break his Nazirus, then bringing down the previous line, maybe carbon tumah, if he himself on his own initiative broke his Nazirus, so he brings a carbon tumah. So in other words, we see here that even under the master, theoretically you could keep Nazirus. As long as the master did not assert his right as the second Adon, you could keep the Nazirus. So therefore, the master didn't assert his right, and you became Tomei on your own, you bring carbon tumah, because it's your problem. If the master made you Tameh by asserting his right as being your other Adon, then you don't have to bring a Korban Tumah. Okay? Makes sense, right? So it says the Gemara, Rabbi Yossi says, B'shekafafo Rabo Adon Kayomi. We're talking about a case where his master compelled him. Shelo Tameh, you shouldn't say, Ho v'yotzi l'cherus, since he goes free. We'll change here. Instead of Tivkoi Menu, it should be Talelo. One might say that since he will go free, that even the tumah he had, where his master compelled to become tummy. So we just said before he doesn't be a korban tumah, right? So I might say since he doesn't be a korban tumah, so even those days he was tummy count towards his nazirus. I might say such a thing. I might say when the days you were tummy not count towards your nazirus, when you have to be a korban tumah. So that means all the first days don't count, right? Because they were all cut off by the korban tumah. But here, where you say that when your master compelled you to become tameh, you don't mean korban tumah. So in that case, maybe I would say that those days count towards the nazirus, despite the fact that you're tameh during them.
There's no nazirus.
What?
No
but we learned that we had a nazir in the Beis HaKforos. That already is not allowed to drink wine and be, the additional tumah. So maybe I would say the same thing here, to even greater extent. So it says, but the Maisa, right? So you're right. We don't say it. So I don't say. Again, change the word to even talking manner to Tala lo Nazirus. Betuma. Therefore you have to say, you have to say, that you count when it says in Nazirus Tumah, it should be according to Shart Yisrael, Mishash and Itar. You count from the time when you become Tar. Rabbi Yossi said, a very fascinating distinction. Eved Shamarei Nazir, a slave who said, I'm a Nazir, L'Sheitze L'Cherus, when I become free, Kopal and Nazirus. So his master, in order to make him not be a Nazir, he has to actually compel him to drink wine and be Matam Mason. He has to physically compel him to do so. Eved, however, Kopal and Nazirus, a slave has to be compelled in terms of the Nazirus, Veino Kopal alone Dermishus, but not in terms of a Neder or Shvua. That's actually a very fascinating dichotomy. The Rambam brings it down in Perikut Beis of Hilchos Shvuos. That which an Eved doesn't, an Eved who takes a shvur doesn't have to keep it. The reason is because of the same reason the Bavli brings down is here why an Eved becomes a Nazir doesn't have to keep it, but not the same reason the Yerushalmi brings down. Because it says, L'sori sorel nafsho. Person takes an neder to prohibit something upon himself. So he says somebody who's nafsho b'shuso, he has a soul in his possession. As opposed to an Eved whose soul is not in his possession. Okay? So the truth is what we're really saying is that there's a concept, we can't take a shvua on something which we're commanded upon from Har Sinai, right? Because we're mushba v'oivei me'Har Sinai. There's already a shvua upon us from Har Sinai. We can't take an additional shvua on this matter, right? So saying is true about an Eved. An Eved cannot take an additional shvua, any shvuas. Because he's already mushba. What's he mushba to do? To be his master's. So therefore, even if he takes a shvua, the shvua is non boy without any kfiyah on the master's part. But here, by Nazir, the whole reason why the Nazirus would not take effect is because he has another Adon who's inserting himself, who's insinuating himself into the situation. That's only true if the Adon actually insinuates himself. If he remains passive, then it wouldn't be a problem. Okay? So that's what Gemara is saying. For a Nazirus, in order to counteract Nazirus, you need the Adon actually to step in bodily, so to speak. But the during Shvua it's not necessary. We just say that Shvua doesn't take effect altogether. Rabbi Yirmiyah Boiker Kuli Rabbi Zira. Rabbi Yirmiyah has front of Rabbi Zira. Turning the page now to 86, Man Gimel base. It should be according to the Rogator. Rogator actually reneges on this, on the emendation I'm going to make, but I like it, so I'm going to leave it the way he has it. Lo Kifafo Rabbo. What? Couldn't be. Somebody coming in or going out? Went out. Coast is clear? Okay, I couldn't believe you'd be coming now. Lo Kifafa Rabbo. If his master did not force him to come to undergo Nazirus. Now remember, he said a master has to break the Nazirus, right? So his master didn't make him break the Nazirus, right? Renit he himself he broke his Nazirus, right? Maushilka, does he get Malchus? Or maybe it's halacha that there is no Nazirus by an Eved. What's the status? So Manakim says, well, what are you talking about? In other words, how do we define the Nazirus here? If we're going to say that the Nazirus is based on halacha, which we discussed, right? There has to be somebody who was a busy evening. I hope it's not firecrackers.
No.
Okay. Again, Marakim, second line down. Imishin is Nazirus so halacha. We're talking about based on the Nazirus halacha, which we're talking about before. Halacha, yesh lokuf. The halacha is that in order to break the Nazirus, we need a special protestation on the master's part. He has to be moich on the Nazirus, right? So if he wasn't, if he didn't make that mecha, so then like the slave, if he broke a Nazir initiative, he gets flogged, right? If we're talking about, if on the other hand we're going to say that maybe we'll say that this Nazirus is like a shvuah, and a shvuah, we said on Amud Aleph, doesn't require a special protestation on the master's part; it just doesn't take place at all. Well, in that case, if the owner, if the Eved would be keeping the Nazirus, then the Nazirus would not be the rice; it would be the Rabbanan. Again, if we owe the Nazirus must be broken by the master in order not to take effect. So as long as it's not broken, it's Nazirus Doraisa. It works, right? And therefore, if he himself went to transgress the Nazirus without his master's protestation, he would have to get flogged. But if you're going to owe that Nazirus is like Shvuah and it never takes effect, even without the master's protestation, then whatever Nazirus he kept is like a Nazirus Rabbanan. And then if you broke it himself, it's like breaking Nazirus Rabbanan. You're not going to get flogged on that. Because now you get flogged and breaking Nazirus Doraisa, right? If it doesn't take effect, you don't be afraid, lo yilka. Raimon said, that was kind of like a parenthetical remark. Anyway, looking at halacha, do you get Malchus on halacha l'Moshe Sinai? You call it halacha. What do you mean halacha? Halacha sounds like halacha Moshe Sinai. What are you talking about? Elo achinu. Rather, this is the way to say it. Imishin is also teira. If the Nazirus is the rights of Nazirus. V'halacha yesh lokuf. And the halacha is, in order to break that, the halacha Moshe Sinai was learned that in order to break the Nazirus Doraisa, the master has to compel to break the Nazirus. V'loika, then the guy gets Malchus if he broke it on his own. Being b'she'elu ve'elu midivreihem, if they're both Rabbanan, meaning that the Nazirus is automatically rendered null and void, and it's only the Nazirus automatically rendered null and void, and it's only whatever he's given is only the Rabbanan, then of course there will be no Malchus. Now the truth is the Gemara doesn't resolve this, but the obvious intent of the Gemara the entire time was that Lamaisa Nazirus requires a special breakage in order to break. It has to have a special Malchus. Okay. Now it says the Gemara, Kifafa Rabba Davar Echad. What if his master forced him to do one of the things which breaks the Nazirus, right? So it's like drink wine. Ma'ashel Kavos could break the other parts of the Nazirus as well. So Bana Machlokas Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Yossi, it talks about over Mikli Neged Panav. What if the Nazir has passed away? The evidence of the Nazir is not in front of his master. So Rabbi says in that case, his master is not around. He shouldn't drink wine because the Nazirus kicks in. Rabbi Yossi says he can drink. Monakim, what are we talking about? I should say, if the master said, regardless of where you are, in front of me or not in front of me, you gotta drink wine. Or if Rabbi Meir Moter, so Meir agrees in that case, you can drink wine, even if he's not in front of the master. If the master says you would drink in front of me, but not when I'm not around. Of Rabbi Yosef, even Rabbi Yosef agrees he can't drink when he's not around him, right? What are you talking about? B'omer should say, where he says just drink. Right? Meir before I should say where he says just drink. Meir says before I should say it means drink when I'm around. B'shlof hanai out the I'm not around, don't drink. Rabbi Yosef Meir it's like it's saying bein funai ben shlof I should say no matter whether I'm around or not, you could drink no matter what. So we see it's machlokas whether when I matir neder for him, when I make the protestation, is it like hutro d'chuya? Does it totally cancel Naziris or only for the part that I actually canceled at the time? So if you're going to hold that Shisei is generically matir, it's matir everything. Hold Shisei is specific, it only is matir when he's in front of him. Okay, so the bottom line is you see according to Yerushalmi that the Nazirus does work to a Raisa as long as the master not protested. Only once the master makes his protestations, then it breaks the Nazirus, right? And even then it might just be limited, not complete breakage. And even then he can't force him to shave, you can only force him to drink wine being Matana Mesa because his hair is holy.
If the master dies, then the Nazirus kicks in.
Then Nazirus kicks in fully, right? Full-blown Nazirus, okay? I think that's what I wanted to say, basically, in this Gemara. Okay, next Gemara is very, very simple. Nazir shegilech. A Nazir who shaved already. He already shaved after the years was over. The Nazir should tell him, then became known shucks. He was Tomei previously. Alright, im Tumah Yadua. If it was a Tumah which is well-known people, he just didn't know about it. So it breaks in the Nazir, it's got to start from scratch. The Tumah Satom, if it was a Tumah Satom, now Tumah Satom is a fascinating thing. Tumah Satom is, let's say nowadays in the archaeological digs in Eretz Yisrael, they uncover a grave. So that grave was there all these years, right? But nobody knew about it. That's called Tumah Satom. A Tumah Satom, literally a tomb of the depths. In other words, nobody knew it because it's buried deep, only now it became revealed. So let's say now the Nazir became revealed that there was a Tumah Satom where the Nazir had gone one day, right? So at the time he walked there, he didn't know it was a Tumah Satom, right? Now he became aware of it. So, in Tumah Satom, Ein Asosir doesn't break his Nazir. So special Lochel Moshe Messiah doesn't break the Nazirus. Imach Lo Gilech, regardless, if they found the Tumah, however, before he shaved, Benkach or Benkach Asosir, regardless it breaks the Nazirus and has to start from scratch. Case of what's the case of the example is, Yor Lizbomari went out to go to the mikveh in a cave. The Nilsa made Tava BMR and there was a dead body floating on the cave. Tomei. Then he is Tomei for having come into contact with that tumah which is well known. It was revealed. Anybody can see it. However, if the mace was found buried into the floor of the cave, Yorad Lohak, if he went down just to cool off his feet, so then Tor. He remained Tor because maybe he didn't come into contact with a dead body. Tor mitumas mace. If he went down to use it as a mikvah, Tomei, he remains Tomei. Right, or he takes Cheskas Tomei, the Chazak of the Tomei who came down there, so he remains Tomei, the mikvah didn't work for him. Cheskas Tor, and the Chazak of the person who went down there, Tor, remains Tor, Shaglayim Ador, because the assumption is that that if they found the body, that people were aware that it was Tomei. If they did not find it was not apparent, then we assume that it was Tor.
Same principle with going into the mikveh with shiur.
That's right. Exactly. Same idea as going to shiur. Okay, Amr Yochanan said, Montana. Who's the Tana drew a distinction? It's a long Reb Chaim on this Gemara. But it's not a topic which interests me that much that I spend time looking at the Reb Chaim. It talks about Tumas Tahom with great length. Who said the pivotal moment is whether he shaved or not? That's Rabbi Lezer. But the pivotal moment is not the haircut, but rather the prior to the sprinkling of the blood. Right? Prior to the sprinkling of the blood on the Mizbeach. So then, if they find he had a Tumah Satom on him, then he's Tomei. If afterwards they found a Tumah Satom on him, he's okay. Ula Bari Shmo B'Shem Rabbi Lezer said, Time Rabbi Lezer, what's logic Rabbi Lezer, who says it's contingent on Giluach, right? What? Because it says Giluach Nazir Sar Rosho, Rosh Niso, the Nazir Sheikh cuts off his hair. HaTorah Talos Nazir, so the Torah links the Naziris, the Saro with his hair. Now, Yishlam Nazir, so what if he committed Naziris? Lois wasn't able, should be Lahafish Korbanos, this is prior to having taken the haircut. He wasn't able to Korban changes. He wasn't able to set aside his Korbanos. Until he finds out they may be passed over this deeply buried grave. So, sir, he has to start from scratch. Hebrews Korbanos of what he set aside his Korbanos. Below he speak, he didn't have time yet, again, changing the gears, so Lakriva. He set aside his Korbanos, wasn't able to sacrifice them. Until he found a Kevatom issue. So I'm Rabbi Zero Kumrai Mana, Rabbi Zero is a name for a mother. Below Mastisa is not a Mishnah, it says, below Hukileach. Well, actually, I'm sorry, I made a mistake. I'm Rabbi Zero, going back to the first line. I'm Rabbi Zero Kumrai Mana, below Mastisa is not our Mishnah. In other words, our Mishnah says that it depends on whether they, what was the turning point? Whether he shaved or not, right? So our Mishnah says that's to do with shaving, not with the set aside Korbanos. Says Gemara, not true. V'lo hu gilech, hu lo gilech. It makes no difference if he shaved or not. That's not the issue. Ki Rabbi Lezer who? No, I misread again. V'lo gilech, hu lo gilech, ki Rabbi Lezer. The whole shiloh of shaving versus not shaving is Rabbi Lezer. Achlo nizak alavadam hu mish nizak alavadam. And there's a separate question whether after Zvika or before Zvika, that's going to Rabbanan. Because Rabbi Lezer looks at the haircut as the defining procedure. Rabbanan look at the sprinkling of blood as the defining procedure. Okay? So according to them, we have a shiloh. What about, and then we have a third shiloh. Maybe there's an opinion which holds the Ima Kravas Karbanos is what has to do with setting aside, to ending the Naziris or not.
He wouldn't shave until after the use mark of the Korban anyway.
That's true, but that means it would be a later point at which we
Yeah, but here they're talking about they didn't set aside.
That would make Reb Lezer more machmir. He says the only time Tumas HaTom is not a problem is if it's after shaving. Right? The others say that Tumas HaTom is not a problem already if he finds it earlier, either after Zrikas Adam or after Afroshas Korbanos. Because we're trying to make it an earlier cutoff time after which it's not a problem anymore. Okay. Says Gemara, Minay L'Savik Kever HaToim. How we know that Kever HaToim on a questionable Kever HaToim or Mekel. Says Gemara, we're lenient. Rabbi Yaakov Baruch Hashem said, see, Judaism is a religion of leniencies. Rabbi Yaakov Baruch Hashem Rabbanan said, Oh, b'derech kol lochem. It says if you're far away from Pesach, on first day Pesach, you can go to Pesach Sheni. Ma, just like it should be derech begoli, just like the road is revealed. I've called the Rosh Goli so to everything which is revealed. Yotzer kevaton as opposed to a kevin in the depth she'enim begoli, it's not revealed. We don't have to take that into account as a potential problem. Ad could no say Pesach, that's true by Pesach. Nazir not say that no the same is true by Nazir. Rabbi Hashem Rabbi said, V'chiyamus meisolo the same time, but Joseph says that Meis died on the Nazir. Ma olav shubakoli, died upon him is revealed. I've called the shubakoli, so which is revealed. You have to give them as opposed to a grave buried she'eno begoli, it's not well known. Tzibur Shima B'Savi Kever Atom. Now, Tzibur, which got Tomei, in a question of Kever Atom, Ma'al Shirat Lova Tzitz, does the Tzitz atone for them in their Karbonos work, even though they have a suffix Tumah? So it says, Mar Shabbi Kavachomer. Umayim Yachid Shirat Kochel B'Tumah Yedua, a Yachid who can't, an individual, who can't make a Karban when he's known to be Tomei. There's no vehicle for a Yachid who's Tomei to make a Karban. Nevertheless, if he's a little bit kevatom, he said this question kevatom we can be lenient. Tzibur, the community, she'afisa kol kevatum, right? Tuma hutra b'tzibur. If they're all tummy, they can be makriv, right? But Tumah you do even if it's known to be Tumah. And Odin should Yabakocha B'Kevatom shouldn't they have more rights in the Kevatom? Says more not necessarily. Kal Shatameko B'Yochid. That leniency which you say about an individual, Ad Machmir B'Tzibur. You have to be Machmir by a community. Kal Shatameko B'Yochid, the leniency which you're lenient by an individual, which is Sheim Nisvadeh Lo Lifnei Zrika. That if he finds out before Zrika Saddam, that we make it as if he came Tomei after Zrika Saddam, then it doesn't get pushed off to Pesach Sheni, or his Pesach Rishon counts. A stranger can train the same thing by a tibur. You find out after Zrika Saddam, then that the tibur came Tomei. Yasa Kami Shanitma Livnei Zrika, that it's as if he came Tomei before Zrika Saddam, in order that the meat should not be consumed. So we see that there are leniencies and stringencies which cut across the board. So therefore there's no necessarily one way to extrapolate from the tumah of an individual to the tumah of tzibur and tumah of tzibur, tumah of an individual. With tumah by tzibur, because we say if they became tamei after Zrika Saddam, we make it like they became tamei before Zrika Saddam. Actually, it's a severity. Maybe they told me before it's because I'm in order that they shouldn't be allowed to eat meat, right? They have to, even though the yates of the Pesach Rishon don't get to eat the meat of the Pesach Rishon. So if we want to say, if we're makel by an individual, right, in terms of kevatom, let's be makel by tzibur by kevatom. It's not necessarily so, because the makel by an individual that once, if he became tummy after akrava, we still let the korban go. But we don't say by the tzibur, if they became tummy after our korban, we let the korban go. They don't get to eat the meat. Okay? So it says,
So the concept of tumas tom is only an individual?
No, we don't know. We don't know yet. We just don't have a proof.
Sounds
Right. Similarly by Nazir, the same idea. Kasha make him a Nazir Torah. By an individual Nazir makel. I'm mach a Nazir Torah. You're mach when you say by Nazir Torah. Kasha make him a Nazir Torah. What's cool by Nazir Torah? Shinis vadelo nezir finds it before Zrika about kevatom. The asa commission malach Zrika. It's like he became tummy after Zrika. B'shush lo yavi korbatuma. It says being korbatuma. I'm mach me Nazir Torah. To say by Nazir Torah, you may stretch it to a chumrah. Shim nodal malach Zrika. He finds that after throwing the blood, that he became tamei, yaseh kemisha nitma, because of nitma becomes tamei again. Yavi karbatuma kol echvel another bring another karbatuma. The time like that, what you learn nitma because of nitma became tamei again. Maybe karma kol echvel brings a karma each and every incident. Now, so therefore we can't extrapolate anything. So we don't know that a community is atoned for by the tzitz for their tumas atom. We never learned it. Oyevit shel Pesach, ma'u shiratzo love tzitz mikav v'chomer. What about the kohen who serves in the Beis HaMikdash? Is a tzitz maratz on him? Not the people who eat it, but the kohen who serves in the Beis HaMikdash betuma. Tumas atom. Kav v'chomer. It's kav v'chomer. Ma'ya abalim shirat kohen mzokim v'yav v'chole. And the owner of Korban Pesach cannot be an old man or a sick man because he can't eat a Korban Pesach. If he's a Korban Kevatom, nevertheless, vis-a-vis Kevatom, we say they don't have to be afraid of it because B'derech means let's see something revealed. Oved, the Kohen, Shifisa Kohen even an old or toothless Kohen can work. And is not Kavatom. If it's a question of Kevatom, his avodah was still kosher, nevertheless. Says, not necessarily. Could be that the owner, you were lenient with him by other types of tumah. I forget, meaning that the rest of the year an owner can send his korbanos to the Beis Mikdash, doesn't even have to show up, right? So therefore, if he's kol chocho b'keratom, you said you were more lenient by keratom, right? So well, it doesn't say it, but that's what it means to say. Torah ba'ovid is opposed to the Kohen himself. He can never work with his stomach. Hoverat to koch b'shar kol tu b'shana. Maybe since everybody is talking about hura koch to my mesa pesach, maybe you can't work if it's to my mesa pesach, even to masatom. Says or Mike to do. How do we learn it? We say no, he can work. Lachem, when it says that derech kol lachem, that if it's to masatom, it's not a problem for you. Bein lo oved shelo, it's not a problem neither for you nor to the Kohen who serves for you in the Beis Hamikdash. So the bottom line is that we know so far, we don't know about Tumas HaTom by Tzibur. We don't know what the law is. But we know that Tumas HaTom is something which will not prevent the Nazir from being Yotzi his korbanos, as long as he found out late in the process, and how late is a machlokas. And we know that a Kohen also, who became Tomei Tumas HaTom, his avodah is still kosher. Okay? Because Tzitz is Maratza. There, the Tzitz is Maratza. Okay, we'll stop here for this evening.